Skip the line passes are a love-hate item in the roller coaster enthusiast community. On one hand, they can create a class difference between guests. On the other hand, they're available to anyone willing to pay the price, and they can dramatically improve your day at the park. I personally am a fan of skip the line passes if I'm visiting a park I rarely get to visit. If it's my first time there or I don't see myself returning for years, of course I'll want to maximize my rides on the signature attractions, and I'm glad parks let you have that luxury. I'll save up to do so. So today, I want to talk about some of the pros and cons of skip the line passes at the US parks. Before delving into the individual parks, I want to talk about what I personally like in a skip the line pass. First, I like systems that let you merge so you can pick your own row. I don't mind if it's assigned seating in the station where you can request a row, or if I have to merge, 10-15 minutes back from the station. Anything that lets me pick the row is fine by me. Second, I obviously want to have it unlimited towards the major attractions. For example, if I go to Cedar Point, obviously I want to ride Steel Vengeance as much as I can. Third, I also prefer not having a timed reservation. Having a timed reservation can sometimes be stressful if you're trying to plan around meals, shows, and everything else you want to accomplish in a park. Lastly, I obviously prefer if the system's free, but I know that's the rare exception. Some of the things I really do not like is I do not like overselling skip the line passes so the line backs up. Take Cedar Point for example, where the Steel Vengeance Fastlane queue has reached over an hour at points. I also dislike being brought up the exit to take someone else's seat directly. It's different if you're being brought up the entrance and you are being assigned a seat before someone else in the main queue gets a row, than coming up the exit and literally taking a row for someone who had been queuing for the next train. I hate doing that. I also hate double rides. Six Flags used to have a perk on the Platinum Flash Pass where you could ride each coaster twice with one reservation. It was extremely awkward when you'd get back to the station and you'd have to tell the people about to board that they'd have to wait one more train. It would completely mess up the groupings for everyone on the train. One of the other things I don't like to see is restrictions on the major rides. If I'm getting the skip the line pass, obviously I want to go on the marquee attractions. And I get that that should be a perk that costs a little more, but it's frustrating if you go to a park and the signature ride isn't even on there or you can only ride it once. I think the park that handles skip the line passes most fairly is Disney. Fastpass is free to all park guests. Walt Disney World uses the Fastpass Plus system. On the plus side, this is available in every single attraction at the resort and you can skip some really long queue lines. Now, there are some downsides with it, and you really can't complain because it's free, but it's good to know what they are. For one, it can be very hard to get some of the major attractions. Hotel guests can book their fast passes up to 60 days in advance, so you may not be able to get them for some of the newest rides like Flight of Passage or Slinky Dog Dash. You are also capped at an initial 3 fast passes, and upon using those, you can grab them one at a time. The downside there is if you have a fast pass for something late in the day, it can completely block you from getting more fast passes. Disneyland instead uses the older fast pass system where fast passes are first come, first served. You can either pick up a fast pass outside the attraction's entrance or for a $15 upcharge, you can get Max Pass on your phone. That $15 is definitely worth it because it'll save you a lot of backtracking when you can book your fast passes electronically. Plus, it comes with free on-ride photos. This is probably my favorite FastPass system of any park because it includes all major attractions. You're definitely going to want to skip these lines, and those who arrive early will have no problem getting fast passes for almost every ride. It is not uncommon for me to have gotten at least 15 to 20 fast passes in a given day at Disneyland. One of the other things that Disney does really well is that if a ride breaks down during your window, they will give you a multiple experience fast pass good for the other rides at the park. With some of the other reserve systems, you're out of luck if a ride goes down because you essentially have just wasted that time when you could have booked another ride instead. Universal just may have the costliest skip the line option. You can pick to either skip the line once for the major rides or unlimited. The downside there is that the express queue can get backed up and it often doesn't include the newest rides. SeaWorld has the quick queue and it's one of the cheapest skip the line options of any park. The downside with this one is that they do assign rows, and often they don't include the newest attractions. Cedar Fair has the Fast Lane. Fast Lane is great because it's unlimited and you can use it anytime. The downside is the cost. Cedar Fair typically has Fastlane and Fastlane Plus. The Plus includes the major rides that you really need to skip the line for. So ultimately, I'm always going to get the Plus option. Flash Pass at Six Flags is a bit different. The cost is wildly variable depending upon which tier you get. There's regular, gold, and platinum. Depending which level you pick, it impacts how quickly you can skip the line. I find that Six Flags doesn't report their queue lines accurately, so even if you get the middle tier like gold, which is the one I usually get, you can get on most rides in 10-15 minutes. There are some downsides there because occasionally they will restrict the latest and greatest rides to only one-time reservations. An example of this would be Wonder Woman at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, or several rides at Six Flags Magic Mountain like West Coast Racers or X2. The TimeSaver at the Herschend parks is a nice mid-tier skip-the-line pass. It's not as expensive as Cedar Fair or Universal, but it is more than SeaWorld. However, it often allows you to use it as many times as you want. The only restriction I've seen is sometimes they will only allow you to go on the newest ride once. Silver Dollar City had that, for example, in 2018 when I went to ride Time Traveler. Legoland also has the Reserve and Ride system. This is a tiered system much like Six Flags, and while I personally haven't used it, the lines at Legoland do get pretty long, so it might be beneficial on a busier day. And then there are two additional parks in Pennsylvania that have skip the line passes. Hershey Park is the Fast Track system. This system is pretty pricey, but you can get an unlimited one good for all the park's roller coasters and major thrill rides. They also have this upcharge that will allow you to skip the line on the water coaster and mat racer slide once. It's a costly upcharge, but if you only want to ride those two rides in the water park, it may be worth it because their queue lines can get out of control on a hot summer day. The downside with Hershey Park system is they do have a really far back merge point. Kennywood also has the VIP Coaster Tour. This is a really cheap Fastpass system, but it also has some of the most restrictive policies of them. First, it's one time on the major attractions. Second, you have a timed reservation for each attraction. Third, you're going to go up the exit and you probably don't get to pick your row. But again, for how cheap it is, it's great if you just want to guarantee yourself to get on the coasters once each. For this video, I decided to focus on the US parks because there's more consistency chain to chain in what they do. For example, in my foreign travels, I've been to several Merlin parks and they don't have the same skip the line pass between parks. But I have seen some interesting things abroad that I do want to mention that I'd love to see come to the US parks. But I do want to talk about the Merlin UK parks specifically. At Thorpe, Chessington, and Alton Towers, their fast track system is set up such that you can either buy the unlimited option good all day, one time for each major attraction, or you can buy single shots for one ride. For example, say Colossus has a really long queue line and it's the only bad line at all of Thorpe Park. You have the option to buy a skip the line pass just for Colossus. Or if you're at Alton Towers and you're a thrill seeker and you only want to ride the major coasters once, you can buy a skip the line pass just for those major coasters. That will allow you to tailor your visit exactly to your needs. I'd love to see something like that come to the United States. This can be an economical option to get the skip the line passes only where they're necessary. So those are my thoughts on the skip the line passes. What are your thoughts on skip the line passes? Do you like using them, hate them? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for more coaster videos here at Canopy Coaster.